Okay, so RTS gaming is my thing. StarCraft, the Homeworld series, all the Command & Conquers, Age of Empires, I mean, you name it, I've played it to death, and I know I'm going to rough up some feathers, but hear me out. Can't wait to deal with that disaster of a comment section. But there's a problem with the RTSs that I've played. They always left me with an itch I couldn't scratch, a certain frustration with the game's design, like that APM wrecking nightmare of a minimap, superficial faction variation, and unrewarding gameplay, and just so much more. It's these issues that seem to plague RTS games. But there's one game that blew my god-burn freaking mind. So what game enthralled me to the abyss of awesomeness for the past 5 years?
It's amazing. It really is. There's so much content to be had here, and to this day I still love playing Supreme Commander. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Yeah.
So, what makes a great RTS? Well, it really comes down to what kind of freedom the game allows, the factions made available to the players, what the world feels like. Or maybe you just want to skip the fluff and find out what RTS you should be playing. Well, I'll get to that, but after 17 years of personal experience, I think I've narrowed things down well enough to justify my position. So here's a quick rundown to make what you just saw so freaking mind-blowing. Reason number 1. A unique game engine. Most RTS games abide by rigid algorithms, but what if there was a game that removed the traditional aspects of RTS, where your clever tactics are a byproduct of a simulation, where every shot fired from a unit is a calculated physical part of the world? There's a palpable sense of reality when falling air units cause damage, explosions affect close objects, where weapons feel alive and unique. Naval ships that fire salvos of artillery feel like they have weight to them. But before we move on, let me address the elephant in the room, especially if you're new. What are these icons? How does the economy work? What is all this? Well, here's a very quick rundown for you. This is your mass bar. Consider it your income. You can increase your income by reclaiming, more on that later, and capturing these green things called mass extractors. This bar is your energy income. In short, don't let it go empty, because then your buildings and other things start to work less efficiently. Like shields, for example, they don't work if you don't have energy to support that shield. And just a quick note about the economy, unlike basically all other RTS games, it's dynamic. That means you can build whatever you want, even if you have zero in the bank, but it's your responsibility to balance what you build with the respected income. This is probably one of the hardest aspects of the game to master. Now the icons are overwhelming, right? Wrong. It's actually very easy for your brain to recognize shapes and silhouettes. Buildings are rectangular, land icons are diamond-shaped, air units are triangles, and naval icons are dome-shaped. Each of these icons have a symbol inside representing the unit. This helps discern from a tank, from an artillery, or from an air unit, etc. So you selected an engineering unit, and you're wondering what the heck is that at the bottom. In short, it's just the crap you can build. You can build more stuff the higher tech the engineer is. To the left of that is just information and commands on that unit. I won't dwell on this too much because that's pretty much it. Now I know this seems daunting, but your brain is very good at this type of recognition, and the developers knew this. It's the same reason why you can identify something quickly from a simple silhouette. But now that you understand the basics, let's get back to that game design where the mechanics give players options. Even if the odds are stacked against you, your tenacity, game knowledge, and clever thinking has a perceptible change in the probability of success. That perceptible change is what fuels a player's tenacity, whereas other games felt hopeless once you reached a certain threshold. And what better way to present this idea than to show you one of my uphill ladder matches? But that badass feeling from turning the tide with the clutch experimental, oh my god, that's a lot of units. Please finish in time. Damn, no wonder Total Biscuit loves this game. These kinds of comebacks are improbable in other RTS games, whereas this game welcomes the possibility by using explicit game mechanics like reclaim. The salvage left behind by conflict can be used to give the losing team a fighting chance. Losing a teammate makes things harder, yes, but due to this mechanic, a match feels optimistic to the last unit, and in that optimism brings a spirited battle. And just like real life, happenstance can occur, where bullets can hit passerby enemy units meant for someone else. It's variations like this that make this game feel alive and addictive. So the question is, why have you not heard of this game? Well, let's put it this way. Your processor has to calculate thousands of units, projectile vectors, movements, naval, air, land mechanics, etc. Of course a game like this flew under the radar. The game was just too ambitious for the hardware offered at the time, and when this game came out, your PC would rather commit suicide than suffer through that much math. But fast forward to today, and this game is enjoyed by thousands of players around the world. Number 2. Variants. Look, I'm gonna level with you here. There's just too much here to explain in one video, so I'm gonna give you this skinny. This game has 4 unique factions, and I'm not talking about corporate definition of unique. You know, like, hey, come here, sucker, they look different and stuff, come buy this. Everyone has seen this ploy. It doesn't change your tactics while you're playing because the differences end there. They're not significant enough to make you give a crap about what faction they have. Variety is the spice of life, and this game rips the page right out of the corporate generic RTS manual. I mean, they dropped the spice cabinet of awesome right on it. All this without compromising balance. I mean, keep in mind, a lot changes through tech progression, but here's a rough generalization.
Please pan out, please pan out, please pan out.
The Cybran faction. The fast, raiding, cloaking, ninja asshole troll of a backstabbing faction. They are a ton of fun to play, but if you want to be worth your salt with them, you gotta get out of your base and be aggressive. Aeon faction. A micro-intensive, shielded unit faction for the OCD players among you. If you had a coffee, then consider this one, they might be a lot of fun for you. UEF faction. The mandatory nation of RTS games. They're hard-hitting, well-rounded, balanced, and the standard faction of choice if you're learning. Pretty solid late-game bots too. And finally, the Seraphim faction. These guys are aliens, and depending on what side of the stick you're on, they're either underpowered or overpowered. This alien race has strong shield tech and a unique weaponry, but like any faction, if you master this faction's unit composition, you can be a real asshole to deal with. All of these factions have their own quirks, I mean especially if you consider what tech level you're at. But if your impulse control is anything like mine, reason number 3, scale. The scale of this game is massive, because that's how wars should feel. Zooming out completely allows you to interact on a more comprehensive level. You shouldn't feel confined to a topographical limit because that antagonizes player choice. Yet zooming in and taking direct control of a battle is as important as your tactical prowess. This only reinforces the scale of the world. Oh my god, yes, look at that destruction. I feel like I'm fighting alongside my units! That's why this game pairs a huge roster of units with the scale of war, because this directly complements freedom of choice in a simulation. It's necessary for players to synergize with these variables so it goes unnoticed, and it's that lack of awareness that makes this game so great, because the minute you become aware of something you can't do is the moment you feel limited by the game's design. If you want to intercept a nuclear missile by dropping a satellite on it, well, I don't see why not. You should be rewarded for your clever thinking, not punished because of limitations. And that goes back to why I feel so frustrated with other RTS games. Yes, some limitations are what makes RTS games unique, but it can also hold them back. Whereas this game's limits are isolated to the player's knowledge. Understanding unit quirks and faction strengths and weaknesses are the limiting parameters of this game. It's no longer an issue of game design, but a bump a player can overcome by learning through experience. Knowing that Aeon Tech 1 tanks can hover, but its Tech 3 equivalent can't, allows a player's perception of win or lose to be attributed to their own personal knowledge. This results in a sense of defeat, or a battle well fought, rather than being cheated out of a win, which is only complemented by number 4. With that being said, number 4, Forged Alliance forever. Now I can't stress this enough. I've been a part of many gaming communities, but none like this. If you're having a hard time learning, someone is always willing to help you. Our culture has given us the impression that gaming communities are toxic cesspools of immaturity. But rather than beating down a new player with get goods and you sucks, I've noticed that experienced players would rather offer their help. It's this counter-current mentality that makes this community so great. Plus, if you want to mod the game to fit your style, sure, why not? There are weekly tournaments, competitive, casual play, ladder matchmaking, multiplayer co-op, and so much more. The game stays fresh with a constant stream of new maps and mods. Still, after 5 years, I'm learning new things about this game. If you want to join, then stay for the following. I'm only adding this part because there is a little bit of confusion as a new player. If you're looking for a Supreme Commander multiplayer game on Steam, Steam is not FAF. FAF is very active. If your lobby doesn't look similar to this, you're in the wrong lobby. You can own the game on Steam or whatever platform you want. So how do you get FAF? Well, step 1, make sure you own the game. Step 2, download FAF. Step 4, join the game, get good, have fun. Don't hesitate to ask the community for help. This community will literally help you out. Good luck and have fun. Enjoy the game, guys. I'll see you out there.